You know that pizza you demolished last night? Right now, your body is performing a chemical magic trick that would make any factory jealous. That slice of pepperoni perfection is being disassembled, molecule by molecule, and converted into the energy that's literally keeping you alive right now, today. We're taking a wild ride through your digestive system. It's basically a 30-foot-long tube that turns food into fuel. And trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds. Let's dive in. It all starts the moment you take a bite. Your mouth isn't just a food entry point, it's the beginning of a coordinated attack on whatever you're eating. First, your teeth are grinding that food into smaller pieces. Pretty obvious, right? But here's what's cool. While you're chewing, your salivary glands are pumping out saliva, about 1.5 liters of it every single day. And saliva isn't just water. It contains an enzyme called amylase that immediately starts breaking down carbohydrates. That's why if you chew a piece of bread long enough, it starts tasting sweet. The amylase is literally converting starch into sugar in your mouth. Your tongue then rolls all this chewed-up food into a ball called a bolus, fancy word for food mush. Then you swallow, and that's when things get really interesting. So here's a question. Can you eat upside down? Actually, yes, because your esophagus doesn't rely on gravity. It uses something called peristalsis. These are wave-like muscle contractions that push food down to your stomach whether you're standing, sitting, or doing a handstand. It takes about 6 seconds for solid food to travel the 10 inches, from your throat to your stomach. Liquids, they make the journey in about 1 second. Your esophagus is basically a muscular elevator that only goes down welcome to the acid chamber. Your stomach is like a muscular bag that holds about 4 cups of food and turns it into a liquid called chyme. Yes, that's the scientific term for digested food soup. But here's where it gets intense. Your stomach produces hydrochloric acid. This stuff has a pH of about 1.5 to 3.5. That's strong enough to dissolve metal. Seriously, if you dropped a razor blade in there, it would completely dissolve in about a week. So why doesn't your stomach digest itself? Great question. Your stomach lining produces a thick layer of mucus that protects it from the acid. This lining replaces itself completely every 3 to 5 days because even with protection, it's taking constant damage. Your stomach also releases an enzyme called pepsin that specifically targets proteins and starts breaking them down into smaller chains called peptides. Meanwhile, the muscular walls are churning everything together like a biological washing machine. Drop a comment below if you've ever experienced heartburn. That's literally stomach acid escaping up into your esophagus where there's no protective mucus. Not fun. Food hangs out in your stomach for about 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you ate. Fatty foods take longer. That's why a heavy meal makes you feel full for hours. Now we're entering the MVP of digestion, the small intestine. This thing is about 20 feet long, but it's coiled up tight in your abdomen. If you stretched it out, you'd see it's not really that small. It has 3 sections: the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum is where most of the chemical digestion happens. Your pancreas and liver dump their secretions here. Your pancreas releases enzymes that break down all 3 major nutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. It also releases bicarbonate to neutralize all that stomach acid, because the small intestine can't handle that level of acidity. Your liver produces bile, which is stored in your gallbladder and released into the duodenum. Bile is basically a detergent for fat. It breaks large fat globules into tiny droplets so enzymes can work on them more efficiently. But here's the really cool part. The inside of your small intestine isn't smooth. It's covered in millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi. And each villus is covered in even tinier projections called microvilli. This creates a massive surface area, about 250 square meters. That's roughly the size of a tennis court packed inside your abdomen. Surface area for absorption. This is where nutrients actually enter your bloodstream. Amino acids from proteins, simple sugars from carbohydrates, fatty acids from fats, vitamins, minerals. They all pass through the walls of the small intestine and into your blood vessels. The jejunum and ileum continue this absorption process. By the time food leaves your small intestine, about 90% of nutrients have been extracted. That takes about 3 to 5 hours. What questions do you still have about absorption? Let me know in the comments and I might cover it in the next video. Finally, we reach the large intestine, or colon. It's about 5 feet long and much wider than the small intestine. What's left at this point? Mostly water, fiber, dead cells, and bacteria. Yeah, your colon is home to trillions of bacteria. They're not invaders. They're residents, and they're actually helpful. These gut bacteria ferment fiber that you can't digest and produce, vitamins like K and some B vitamins. They also help train your immune system. Pretty wild that you're in a symbiotic relationship with bacteria right now. The colon's main job is water absorption. It reclaims about 1.5 liters of water per day from the waste material. This gradually turns liquid waste into solid feces. Feces move through the colon slowly, taking about 12 to 48 hours. They're stored in the rectum until you feel the urge to use the bathroom. And then, well, you know the rest. Quick myth busting. You might have heard that gum takes 7 years to digest. Completely false. Your body can't digest gum, so it just passes through and comes out the other end in a couple of days, like fiber does also. Your stomach doesn't shrink if you eat less. The size is pretty consistent. You just feel fuller sooner when you're used to eating smaller portions. So let's recap. Your digestive system is a 30-foot assembly line that mechanically and chemically breaks down food, absorbs nutrients through a tennis court-sized surface area, and reclaims water before eliminating waste. All of this happens automatically, every single day, without you thinking about it. Why does this matter? Because understanding digestion helps you make better choices. When you know protein takes longer to digest than simple carbs, you understand why protein keeps you fuller longer. When you know fiber feeds your gut bacteria, you understand why it's important for more than just regularity. Your body is constantly performing miracles. The more you understand it, the more you can work with it instead of against it. If this helped clarify how digestion actually works, hit that like button and subscribe for more biology content. And seriously, drop your questions in the comments. Your curiosity drives what I create next. Stay curious.